Welcome, beloveds. I'm so happy and honored that you are here tonight to discuss with us finding and developing the state of mind called equanimity, that calm place of evenness of mind, especially under stress. I am Reverend Susie Nason, and I'm excited to be here with all of you and join with Reverend Molly Hansen and Reverend Lynn Manuell for our gathering. I'd like to give a big shout out to Reverend Kathy Bizzuto Jones and Reverend Christopher Portelli for introducing this topic during their Dharma talks. And Reverend Molly's exploration of this topic during the 8 a.m. meditation she leads Wednesday mornings. And I see lots of familiar faces from that group too. Thanks for coming tonight. To open our program tonight, Reverend Lynn will begin with a song, Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. When we've been here 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun.
Thank you, Lynn. So beautifully sung and moving, a perfect way to begin tonight's presentation. Amazing Grace, the title alone sums up equanimity. When Molly and I were first deciding on songs to ask Lynn to sing, we considered Don't Worry, Be Happy. It reminds me of a quote of Kurt Vonnegut. Please notice when you are happy and exclaim or murmur or think at some point, if this isn't nice, I don't know what is. And I'll add, when we make a point of noticing when we are happy, happiness tends to increase. When Thich Nhat Hanh used to give Dharma talks, he often discussed that humans have a goal of being happy. Tonight, we are going to talk about a different goal to consider, and that goal is finding contentment. or being in the state of mind of equanimity. Pastor Charles R. Swindoll says, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. The trait of equanimity in Hebrew translates as peacefulness in the soul, and it refers to that 90% of how we react to life. As author Meg Salter writes, if you have too many days of feeling off balance, stressed, or disturbed, you may seek that inner calm and stability that comes from equanimity. Equanimity is not a special quality reserved only for the favored few, but a skill that can be developed by anyone. So often when I work with a couple, I can see clearly that if they greeted each scoreboard-worthy infraction that they copiously list with equanimity instead of rancor, how much happier, content, and calm they would be. So how can we find that inner peace that equanimity offers to end our suffering? How can we help others cultivate it? Tonight, we will explore some answers to these questions. Practicing equanimity is a spiritual practice found across religions. According to the Tao, if you want to accord with the Tao, just do your job and then let go. As the Buddha explained, a mind filled with equanimity is abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. Perhaps during this gathering, we will each find a way to support and cultivate our own spiritual practice of equanimity. The lesson I've learned so far while preparing for our talk tonight is that what comes from finding the balance of equanimity, and that is finding that sweet spot of gratitude for what is. You might also imagine equanimity being a pentatonic scale of life. No matter what step you take, you can't strike a wrong note. Just like in ancient music or any music using the pentatonic scale, any note struck goes with the one before it and following it and makes beautiful music. So I'm a find a gift in the challenge kind of person. So when Molly and I started talking about our topic, I wondered what leads us to equanimity. More often than not, it's fear, despair, disappointment, hardship. And that brought to mind this poem by Khalil Gibran called Fear. It is said that before entering the sea, a river trembles with fear. She looks back at the path she has traveled from the peaks of the mountains, the long winding road crossing forests and villages. And in front of her, she sees an ocean so vast that to enter, there seems nothing more than to disappear forever. But there is no other way. The river cannot go back. Nobody can go back. To go back is impossible in existence. The river needs to take the risk of entering the ocean, because only then will fear disappear, because that's where the river will know. It's not disappearing into the ocean, but of becoming the ocean. Another way to look at this topic is through the lens of Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron. She notes, there isn't any hell or heaven except for how we relate to our world. Hell is just resistance to life. In the way we practice, we don't say hell is bad and heaven is good, or get rid of hell and just seek heaven. But we encourage ourselves to develop an open heart and an open mind to heaven, to hell, to everything. Why? Because only then can we realize that no matter what comes along, we're always standing at the center of the world, in the middle of sacred space. And this is from The Wisdom of No Escape. These words of Eckhart Tolle resonate with me on the topic of equanimity. To offer no resistance to life is to be in a state of ease, grace, and lightness. This state is then no longer dependent upon things being in a certain way, good or bad. And during one particular 8 a.m. meditation that Reverend Therese Bimka leads, Therese discussed leaving room to browse. There are no certitudes. She shared that author Sue Monk Kidd, born a Baptist, turned from fundamentalism into sacred feminine traditions, and suggests that we live inside the question, allowing us to incubate the pain and let it birth something new. This is the seedbed of creativity and growth. Again, that reference to fear, despair, and pain that brings us to equanimity. So I wonder if deliberately waiting can feel like suffering. Perhaps we can embrace the doubt and uncertainty, the suffering, doubt and uncertainty, the suffering, if you will, as it often leads to the gifts, to the yes. Teresa Bimka reminds us, bring the truth to where you are. As our 20th president, James A. Garfield, said, the truth will set you free, but first it will make you miserable. And of course, our beloved Rumi says, don't grieve. Anything you lose comes around in another form. As you can see, the topic of equanimity shows us in many walks of life and spiritual practices. Politicians allude to it, writers write about it, singers sing about it, and Buddhists call it being in balance or right disposition. And as Pema Chodron says in her book, Comfortable with Uncertainty, to cultivate equanimity, we practice catching ourselves when we feel attraction or aversion before it hardens into grasping or negativity. And this connects to mindfulness. Our recently departed, beloved teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, says that Buddhist equanimity includes the ability to see everyone as equal. We shed all discrimination and prejudice and remove all boundaries between ourselves and others, he writes. In a conflict, even though we are deeply concerned, we remain impartial, able to love and to understand both sides. And this is from the heart of the Buddhist teaching. In yoga, we see it in aparigraha, the idea of non-grasping or non-attachment, the practice of letting go. As Tish Gainey, certified yoga therapist, offers, here are a few synonyms for grasp: hold, grip, clinch, clench, grasp, grapple, clamp, and lug. In yoga, this idea of non-attachment asks us to not grasp at thoughts, emotions, actions, ideas, people, things, situations, or memories that no longer serve. Translation: let go of anything that keeps you from realizing your own true nature. Learn to let it go. Move forward to realizing your own true nature. Learn self-awareness to find your true nature. Tish goes on to say that this idea of non-attachment reminds us to not hold too tightly to what we perceive, not to cling, even to our own self-awareness. So does this remind you of an odd phrase, moderation, even in moderation? Yoga teacher Tanya Wetzel adds, nothing in life is permanent. All things, both good and bad, come to an end. Knowing this allows us to live in the moment. Non-attachment helps us navigate through these moments and shifts our perspective and desire for them. So practicing non-attachment doesn't mean that we must give everything up, isolate ourselves, or go through life without goals. What it does ask is that we refrain from harmful greed and obsessions that could otherwise invade and damage many aspects of our lives. Rabbi Lauren Grabel Herman writes, Jewish sources use several terms to name the sole trait of undisturbed equanimity, the most descriptive of which is menuchat hanefesh, calmness of the soul. The Musar, a Jewish path of spiritual development that leads to awareness, wisdom, and transformation, teaches the importance of a calm soul. But they don't see that inner state as a final station called peace and tranquility, where the journey ends. even as life continues. Instead, they view equanimity as an inner balance that coexists with a world and an experience that accepts turbulence and even turmoil, because that's just the way life is. Modern scholar Alan Marinas, a leading figure in the contemporary revival of the Massar movement, shares that this tranquility is not a state of numbness, but rather the ability to remain conscious and balanced in the midst of whatever might be going on within you and around you, or rest for the soul. Before I turn our gathering back over to Reverend Molly, I'd like to share a few quotes on equanimity. Writer, teacher, and spiritual master Amit Ray says, "Equanimity is the hallmark of spirituality. It is neither chasing nor avoiding, but just being in the middle." And from our very own One Spirit, Alan Locus, a modern definition of equanimity, cool. This refers to one whose mind remains stable and calm in all situations. And one of my all-time favorites by author L.R. Nost, life is amazing, and then it's awful. And then it's amazing again. And in between the amazing and awful, it's ordinary and mundane and routine. Breathe in the amazing, hold on through the awful, relax and exhale during the ordinary. That's just living, heartbreaking, soul healing, amazing, awful, ordinary life. And it's breathtakingly beautiful. And research professor Brene Brown offers us this suggestion. Together we will cry and face fear and grief. I will want to take your pain, but instead I will sit with you and teach you how to feel it. Friar Richard Rohr tweeted, "Equanimity is the very nature of the soul. Jesus called it the peace the world cannot give nor take away." And now I turn the next portion of our evening over to Molly.
Thank you, Reverend Susie. Hello, beloved ones, beloved community. It's so good to see all of you this evening. I love what you've shared, Susie, so many different faith perspectives on equanimity. Thank you. And it really has struck me once again this evening as you shared that no matter what your chosen faith path may be, equanimity really is an important spiritual practice that can help us through small and huge challenges and everything in between. So it was early last fall, before Susie and I started talking about equanimity, I was listening to a podcast from On Being, that's Krista Tippett's podcast, which I love, while I was walking. And she was interviewing Sharon Salzberg, who is one of the founders of the Insight Meditation Society, and one of the people, along with Jack Kornfield and Joseph Goldstein, who really brought Buddhism to the West in the early 70s. I love Sharon Salzberg. And what she shared with Krista was first this. It's like when we talk about equanimity in Buddhism, it can sound like indifference, but it's not. It's being able to hold everything, the dark and the light, and having a mind and a heart big enough and spacious enough to hold it all. And Sharon goes on in this interview telling this wonderful story. She said, "I recently had this experience reflecting on an earlier experience I had where I'd gone to Parkland, Florida, not long after the school shooting to teach. And someone in the room raised her hand and she said, 'I feel really weird.' because I'm having an incredible experience about mindfulness and practicing meditation and being with you. And I know the only reason it's happening is because that horrible thing happened. And she said, I don't know how to get over that, to be with this. And I said, this is Sharon speaking, I don't know if we ever get over it, so much as we learn to hold them both at once. And Sharon went on to say, and I saw her recently. I was doing these panels and she was on one of the panels. And I said, do you remember that conversation we had? And she said, not only do I remember it, I think of it every single day, and that we can learn to hold it all at once. And she used the word equanimity because that's what I had used, even though it's a little bit of an odd term for us. And she talked about the yin-yang symbol, where the dark is in the light, and the light is also implicit in the dark. And that's really our task, is to somehow be able to hold it all in a way that will allow us to not only survive, but to go on in a way that we can stay connected and help others as well. And then Krista shared a short impromptu poem of Sharon's in the interview. And Sharon's impromptu poem goes like this. And I love this because it just speaks directly to me. Perhaps it does with you. I do the best I can. I try to learn from my mistakes. And the world is the world of constant change, and pleasure, and pain, and being thanked, and not being thanked, and all of those things. And so that's where equanimity comes in, as a kind of comprehension of this is the way things are. And Kate Davies, who is also a meditation teacher with Insight Meditation Society, shared this. Equanimity is about balance and spaciousness. It's about holding life's 10,000 joys and 10,000 sorrows in the vastness of our hearts. It's about welcoming everything and anything and accepting it just as it is. An ancient Buddhist text says, just as a rocky mountain is not moved by storms, so sights, sounds, tastes, smells, contacts, and ideas, whether desirable or undesirable, will never stir one of steady nature whose mind is firm and free. I like this image of a mountain that's not moved by storms, because sometimes we can feel an inner storm occurring and we can't quite scramble around for the teachings. Now, what was I supposed to do in a relationship to this one? Just think mountain. Imagining the storm blowing through, but the mountain doesn't shake. And so now I'd like to share a mindfulness mountain meditation with you, borrowing heavily from the words of Jack Kornfield. A deep bow to Jack for this mountain meditation. So start by sitting comfortably, taking a moment to ground and center yourself. If possible, sit with a straight back, your head balanced on your neck and shoulders. Allow your shoulders to relax down from your ears and place your hands where they are most comfortable, perhaps in your lap or on your knees. And I invite you to close your eyes or soften your gaze and bring your attention to the flow of your breathing, feeling each breath, each in-breath and each out-breath. Just observing your breathing without trying to change it or regulate it in any way. Allowing your body to be still. Sitting with a sense of dignity, a sense of resolve, a sense of being complete, whole in this very moment, with your posture reflecting this sense of wholeness. As you sit in the stillness and wholeness, visualize a majestic mountain, either one that you have seen or one that you create in your imagination. It can be alone or part of a mountain range. Hold the image and feeling of this mountain in your mind's eye. Letting it gradually come into greater focus. Observing its overall shape, its lofty peak high in the sky, the large base rooted in the rock of the earth's crust, its steep or gently sloping sides. Noticing how massive it is, how solid, how unmoving, how beautiful, both from afar and up close. Over geologic time, there will be some change. Erosion occurs over tens of thousands and millions of years. Rivers may change their course, their flow, and yet the mountain remains. You are sitting and breathing with the image of this mountain, your mountain. Noticing its qualities, and when you feel ready, see if you can bring the mountain into your own body, sitting here, and the mountain in your mind's eye, you become one. So that as you sit here, you share in the massiveness and the stillness and majesty of the mountain. You become the mountain rooted in the sitting posture. Imagine your body becoming like the mountain. Grounded, solid, still. Let your legs be the base, your arms and shoulders the slopes, your spine the axis, and your head the peak. Allow yourself to become grounded, centered, present. As you sit, you and the mountain are one. you can be the mountain and see the mountain at the same time. I invite you to visualize the mountain as the seasons begin to change. See it in autumn, surrounded by golden warm light and brilliant colors. And gradually autumn gives way to winter. The mountain is assaulted by intense and violent weather, by fog, snow, and ice. Notice how the mountain remains still, quiet, steady through the storms. Notice how you remain still, quiet, steady through the storms. Watch as the seasons flow into each other. In spring, the snow melts, birds sing and animals return. Wildflowers sprout and bloom. The mountain streams overflow with the melting snow. See the mountain in summer, bathed in light, quiet, solid, and majestic. Except for the highest peaks, the snow is gone. In every season, clouds cover the mountain and then blow away. Storms arise suddenly and pass. And now I invite you to see the mountain through the course of a day, beginning with the rosy hues of dawn, then the clear light of morning, the deep golden light and shadows of afternoon. Watch as the day gives way to the rich colors of sunset and finally to the dark night sky, filled with stars and galaxies, endless space across the vast, clear heavens. The mountain remains at all times its essential self. Clouds may come and clouds may go. The mountain's magnificence and beauty are not changed one bit. It just sits being itself, at times visited by violent storms, buffeted by snow and rains and winds of unthinkable magnitude. Through it all, the mountain continues to sit unmoved by the weather, by what happens on the surface, unmoved by the world of appearances. See if you can sit like the mountain, still and grounded through the changes of weather, time, and seasons, allowing day and night to come and go, accepting change, not resisting it. Rest in the silence of being the mountain of seeing the mountain, of you and the mountain being one. In this moment, in the stillness. And now I invite you to become aware of your surroundings, aware of your Sangha, bidding adieu to your mountain. You may open your eyes when you're ready. And perhaps you can take these qualities into your evening, into your day tomorrow, allowing the weather and seasons of life to come and go, feeling yourself being present, rooted, centered, and still, unmoved by storms, wind, cold, rain, heat, moments of darkness and light, joy and sorrow. Let life continue to unfold around you. Not indifference, not pretending that this stuff isn't happening, just being present. Thank you. So, let's have a bit of conversation about what landed for you in this meditation. how might you bring equanimity into your life? What's your takeaway? And since we're a pretty small group this evening, we can all speak into the room.
I'd like to share.
Great, thank you.
This has been coming up a lot for me, so, and it's very hard, but I think of it as the mountains, and it's about acceptance and accepting what happens, whatever it is, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And believe me, all I want to do is control it and change it. But sitting with something, I mean, this just sort of started for me when I started this meditation stuff. Sitting with it, which I never could do.
Yeah.
I still can't do it very well because, control is what but the mountain doesn't control anything, does it? Anyway, that's the thing. That's the issue for me. And it keeps coming up over and over again, no matter how much I try to stop it.
That's right. That's
But
why they call it spiritual practice, right, Mary?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you
it's
have...
tough. It's tough. Sorry
to interrupt you. It sounds like you have the awareness of it, and that's the beginning of making the change that you might want to make.
So I forgot to say this at the beginning of the conversation. So let's just take a moment or two and hold Mary and her share just for a moment in sacred holding, in sacred space. And we'll do this for everybody after they share, just to be aware. Thank you, Mary. Thank you. Other thoughts and takeaways? Yes, Dottie. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you for the strength from the mountain. I found out this afternoon I'll be wearing a nitroglycerin patch for a while, but it's just one of those things,
Yeah.
And the mountain, that's just a beautiful image to take into myself. So thank you.
Holding you, Dottie. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, the mountain has an onslaught of things happening to it and around it, and yet it remains its essential self.
Mm-hmm.
And with your patch, you remain your essential, beautiful self.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Christine, would you like to unmute yourself?
Thank you. That was beautiful. I am going to be retiring in September, and I've been thinking a lot about going back to a musical instrument. I played a piano for a long, long time ago, and the instrument that I want to I think to begin with, to go to now is the cello, and listening to that magnificent music, no matter what it is, whatever classical music it is, but today just really, it draws me in, and I realize that it is a path for me to equanimity. It's something that I can really do for myself. And that was gorgeous. What was that piece of music? that we were listening to, Molly?
It's from a composer named Garth Stevenson, and this piece is called Flying, and I can't remember the name of the album that it's on,
Okay.
but there's a lot of pieces like that. This is the longer of the pieces there, but thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for being here, and all of you for being here. This has been just wonderful, really. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And so we hold you, Christine, as you approach retirement. And as you consider that gorgeous instrument, the cello, as your path to equanimity. Thank you. Yes, Elizabeth, please unmute yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a beautiful offering today, and I love the thought of being with my sangha, because otherwise you feel very much disconnected from what's going on around you, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I really loved that life unfold, not pretending that stuff is not happening. I just loved that. It just really resonated with me. And I would particularly like some equanimity as we try and decide to leave a place where we're living now that we really, really love. I'm in Sydney, Australia, by the way. And go and live in Brisbane, another state, because we have family there. And that would be really the only reason we would, not the only reason, obviously that's very important, but it's just such a hard decision to make. And I would like some equanimity around that. So thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And we hold you in Australia, across these thousands and thousands of miles, your Sangha. Each of us are holding you in our hearts as you approach this big transition. Knowing that you can be in equanimity. Thank you. I think we have time for one more person. Garrett, is that you? I saw you unmute yourself.
Yes. So I was just going to say thank you both for this gift, right? And it's been so beautiful. And for me, the experience was really I love the mountain, but then the way you talked about all the seasons, the mountain, going over the mountains, and I just was thinking about the stillness that. Like the mountain looks so still, but it's constantly buzzing. It's constantly, like what we can't see, that, and yet there could be such a stillness in that, you know. But this whole idea of equanimity, I think it's the stillness of the mountain, but when we open our heart, and when we can open our hearts, and I think then that's when we really feel that sense of equanimity.
Yeah. It's that spaciousness that they talk about. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you. And we hold you and your heart in our hearts. Thank you. And Mary Lou, you've been unmuted. Do you want to share? I don't want to pass you up.
Yes, okay, sure. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's been wonderful, very enlightening. And to me, when I think of equanimity, I think of freedom, and also it's not passivity. It's actually an active participation in whatever is happening, whatever comes up, whatever you're experiencing. And also, it's an inner peace when I'm going through, say, something that's very painful. When I experience equanimity, I experience like an inner peace, and that kind of gets me through a lot of pain. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Mary Lou.
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
indeed. Active equanimity. I love that. Embracing what's going on. And we hold you
Thank you.
in our hearts. Thank you. I think we're about ready to move on, unless there's one more burning share. No? Okay. So I pass it back to you, Susie.
Thank you, Molly. That was beautiful and so moving and so powerful. And the shares, to hear how people already are responding to that idea and practicing it. Thank you so much for leading us through that.
My pleasure.
So thank all of you for participating, for sharing, for adding to our experience tonight of the gathering. And now, once again, I'd like to introduce Reverend Lynn as she sings for us, I've got the sun in the morning and the moon at night.
Taking stock of what I have and what I haven't. What do I find? The things I've got will keep me satisfied. Checking up on what I have and what I haven't. What do I find? A healthy balance on the credit side. Got no diamond, got no pearl. Still I think I'm a lucky girl. I've got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Got no mansion, got no yacht. Still I'm happy with what I've got. I've got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Sunshine gives me a lovely day. Moonlight gives me the Milky Way. Got no checkbooks, or no banks. Still I'd like to express my thanks. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. And with the sun in the morning and the moon in the evening, I'm alright. Diamonds got no pearl. Still I think I'm a lucky girl. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Got no mansion, got no yacht. Still I'm happy with what I got. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. Sunshine gives me a lovely day. Moonlight gives me the Milky Way. Got no checkbooks for my bank. Still I'd like to express my thanks. I got the sun in the morning and the moon at night. And with the sun in the morning and the moon in the evening, I'm alright.
Brava! Thank you, Lynn. Thank you for participating tonight, for bringing your beautiful voice to our experience. It was so much fun. And thank you for reminding us that we do have the sun in the morning and the moon at night. So please, everyone, join me in a closing prayer as we say thank you for all that is and the equanimity we have to see it, face it, appreciate it, for the gifts in our lives, for the challenges we face, for the successes we enjoy, for this chance to gather together and practice knowing and accepting all that we have, the mountains, the sun, the moon, anything and everything. We have it all. Ashe, aho, and so it is.
Got no mansion, got no yacht, still I'm happy with what I've got. I've got the sun in the morning and the